Greetings brothers, we're jumping straight in today with a quickfire video, no bullshit, should I buy a Gladiator, so buckle up! No bullshit, should I buy a Gladiator? So we're going to run through a quick summary of the potential options, the damage, the stratagems, the survivability, popular other 9th edition choices, and then we'll have a summary and we'll also look at the costs. So here I've colour coded each of the gladiators and I've written down their weapon options and I've also put their profiles. So you can pause this video if you need to see anything, but we'll be running through the slides very quickly. So here's all the options, and then all variants get the option for 5 extra points to take heavy stubber, rocket pods or auto launchers. I've then colour coded every weapon. Again, pause because we won't be on the slide for very long if you want to see anything. And we've worked out the number of hits it gets based on its ballistic skill of 3. We've worked out how many wounds that will do against each toughness, and we've also worked out the full damage it will do against 4, 6 and 8, because I think that gives us like a broad scope. And then we've also looked at the bonus weapon options. However, we don't include them in the final profile later, so if you want to take the bonus options and just want to see what they do, you can see it here. So obviously auto launchers gives us 5 CP to grant smokescreen, which when declared as a target you can do -1 for the phase. Armor of Contempt lets us 1 CP ignore mortal wounds, and then Grav Pulse 1 CP to fall back or shoot, and -2 to hostile charges, so you have to choose what you want to do there. And then in close combat, obviously the Gladiator max profile, 3 hits, hitting on 6 is strength 7, no AP 1 damage. Right, so then we've made a table which is all the damages combined from the different weapons and all the number of shots, and then we've colorized it by green being the best and then yellow being the second best. So the Reaper, which is actually the one with the twin heavy onslaught cannon, gets 26 shots, and obviously it does the most against toughness 4. What I guess is surprising is it comes in second against both toughness 6 and toughness 8. I guess the increase in the strength of the onslaught cannon has helped here, and yeah, the Valiant comes in first against both toughness 6 and toughness 8. So that's the one with the multi-meltas and the twin las cannons. So that, again, that makes sense. The Lancer, which is the cheapest option, seems lackluster kind of across the board. And then we've also looked at the general survivability. They all save on the same 3+. They all have toughness 8, same wounds. So bolt rifles, 144 to kill it. The 6s you need from toughness 8 are the real thing. Flame storms, power fist, plasma. So just 6 shots from a high power plasma will actually kill this thing. I guess because it's literally going to get no save against the plasma, right? So yeah, so now that we know what's best between these tanks, then I think what we need to look at is other popular options that you can get on the table right now. And these are a Leviathan Dreadnought with the twin Grav Flux and the twin Volkite, the Redemptor Dreadnought with the macro plasma, Land Raider with las cannons, twin bolters, the Sicarian Veriton with the neutron laser, the battle tank with the Hercules autocannon, and then good old Ball Predator. I mean, this is the Blood Angels channel, so we had to throw that in. And obviously these all get smokescreen, and the Leviathan gets Duty Eternal and automatic shielding. Redemptor gets Duty Eternal, sorry, Redemptor doesn't get smokescreen, and then Land Raider gets the Machine Spirit. So some of these have some other options you can use with stratagems. So what I've done, again, you'll need to skip this through because we won't be on the slide for very long, so pause it if you want to. Everything has been color coded and everything has been worked out again for all these vehicles and all the weapon options. So you can pause this and see it. We're not going to stay on either of these 2 slides very long. Then what I've done is taken all that data together and we've put it into a full hits damage breakdown. So green is best, yellow is second, and now we've added purple for the third. So if we look at all the things that we've just compared, and I've put point costs at the very end, what's kind of surprising to me is Leviathan Dreadnought does the most damage against tier 4, the most damage against tier 6, and the most damage against tier 8. Or toughness, sorry, not tier. And then 220 points. Coming in second in a few categories is the Valiant still. So it's still got decent against toughness 6, toughness 8. And then the Reaper, obviously this tank is designed to mow down infantry, so it's coming in pretty decent, second in fact, against toughness 4. I guess one thing to consider, I suppose, is like these 15 wounds would be 15 1-damage shots, where the Leviathan Dreadnought is going to be much less number of shots, but they're going to be like 2.5 damage. If you want to see exactly what I've done, I've averaged out numbers of damage in the previous slides underneath, so you can work that out if you want to break it down to work out the number of models to kill. But in terms of like raw damage against toughness, and I think this is even more prevalent now that Marines have 2 wounds, and I guess I imagine Death Guard and everything are going to be moving to 2 wounds in the very near future. So Yeah, Leviathan Dreadnought wins. I guess the notable other ones is the Venator for the Sicarian comes in third against Toughness 8. I mean, that's the one with the neutron laser. It kind of makes sense. I guess it's quite good for being the second, one of the cheapest on this list. And yeah, I mean, even though the Valiant is coming in second, it is quite hefty in points compared to some of the other options. So pause it if you want, but we're moving on. So then we'll compare the survivability of the Gladiator against the other ones that we've just looked at. They're color-coded again if you want to go back. And again, what kind of surprised me when I was doing this was, guess what? Mr. Leviathan, even with all his changes, is still the strongest against AP2 damage weapons, the strongest against Power Fist, the strongest against plasmas. And I mean, he's not really that far off bolt rifles, right? It's only like, what, 15 more shots or something? So Leviathan Dreadnought for hands for the points is the most survivable here. What's really interesting, I suppose, is if you know the Redemptor Dreadnought's only 180 points, so he's cheaper than all the Gladiators, and he actually comes in second here, and against the higher damage and AP weapons, he can take like a lot more shots than this new Gladiator tank, right? So yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. The Land Raider comes in really expensive, and Land Raider is amazing against small arms fire, and I guess it comes in reasonably good against the other high damage weapons, just because it's got that 2+ save and the toughness 8. So, but the Land Raider is 285 points, so I guess you have to consider that. So overall survivability of the Gladiator against similar things kind of seems poor, if you ask me. Even the Sicarians, which a few people have mentioned to me to look at, the Sicarians are taking 50% more shots against these high damage weapons. So for 1 CP, that could definitely be an option if you want to keep these on the battlefield. And the Sicarian, for its points cost, was coming in pretty decent for some of these. You know, it was only 10. It's only 1 less damage a turn against some of these Gladiator options, and in some cases here with the neutron laser, it's actually a little bit better, and it's, you know, 20-30 points less based on the different profiles. So a lot to consider. So if we look at a quick summary that I've put together, so the Gladiator performs highest on the number of shots. So only one Gladiator does that, which is the Reaper, and the Valiant comes second in terms of damage output against toughness 6 and toughness 8. But even with this rebalance, the Leviathan still comes first in every damage category using the Grav Flux and the Volkite cannons. It does require you to pay 1 CP to include it in your army, obviously, because that martial legacy rule. A lot of people mention the Sicarian rules, and they do seem fairly strong, I guess, considering they were the cheapest in points, except from that Redemptor Dreadnought, but they do require the martial legacy. So, Gladiator in survivability is second only to the Land Raider against small arms fire due to its high toughness of 8, but it's decidedly poor or average against any high AP and high strength weapons. Again, Leviathan just wins against all other weapon types, mainly due to the invulnerable save and its duty eternal. Both Sicarians, which were cheaper on points, were more survivable here due to the 2+ save, and they actually have 2 more wounds than the Gladiator as well. The Redemptor Dreadnought came in as like very survivable for its point cost. So it was like the notable standout, right? Where it was like second on a bunch, second on 1, sorry, and third on 2. Just 1 behind the Land Raider here, which is, you know, it's 100 points cheaper than the Land Raider. So the Redemptor Dreadnought was very survivable. And then the one thing to say about the Redemptor Dreadnought compared to all these other ones is it's also really solid in close combat, right? Like its fist is D3+3, and it's a strength 14 fist. So as a Blood Angels player, you know, the Redemptor Dreadnought seems like almost one of the best choices. I guess you could pull one of those guns off the Leviathan Dreadnought if you wanted to switch it up a bit, but that's where it stands. And then the Land Raider is amazingly small arms fire. It's the most expensive on points, but it can also be a very good sort of base for your troops. I really like putting like a 5-man death company inside the Land Raider and then using that as a base for them to come out and get wherever they need to be on the battlefield to maybe get you all fronts or take an opponent off an objective. So although the Land Raider is more expensive, then there is reasons to pick it, right? So then finally we move on to the costs. So the new Gladiator is going to be £52.50 or £80, and personally it just seems it's pretty hard to justify buying one when it's fairly average. Like, it's shooting in a few places is okay, but its survivability is going to be a real big problem. The Leviathan obviously comes in quite a bit more expensive, and it's a forward model. There's a Blood Angel specific chassis for that for £53 compared to the £50 for the regular chassis, so just consider that if you are buying it. The Redemptor Dreadnought right now seems like a really good all-round pick, and obviously Redemptor Dreadnoughts get Wisdom of the Ancients, so they're good at buffing other units, and they are core as well, so just consider how strong Redemptor Dreadnoughts could be. And on Land Raider, we talked about that already, a good base of fire for £50. The Sicarians are expensive, 84 or 90 depending on the variant, but they are quite survivable and they do decent damage for the point cost. I mean, you could probably run like 2 or 3 of these as some sort of fire base and that would be pretty useful in the battlefield. And then finally, we've just got it in there, the Ball Predator. It didn't do anything, it didn't appear on any of the top numbers, it's still underwhelming in the new edition and it's $37.50, so unless you really have an affinity to Ball Predators, probably not going to recommend you buy this one. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any other comments or questions, then please leave them down below. A friendly reminder that at 10 AM tomorrow, the new Gladiator tank, the Primaris Death Company, the Blood Angels Codex, card and dice all go on sale, and if you're here in the UK, if you buy them through Element Games using the link in the video description below and the referral code, you'll be able to get double crystals on every £1 you spend. Thank you for tuning into the weekly tactics video. If you enjoyed the video or you got any value out of it, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this every week, please consider subscribing. By the blood are we made. Peace.